This show is part of OnePlace, a daily network of focused briefings across the stories people follow most.
Welcome to our daily Roundup. We are diving into 10 significant legal developments in criminal cases from across the country, providing the essential details you need to stay informed on today's headlines.
A Texas man receives life for a triple murder.
A Florida judge is reprimanded for racially insensitive comments.
A man is jailed for threatening black preschool children.
An Illinois man is convicted of threatening Donald Trump.
A mother is sentenced for her daughter's tragic death.
A Georgia man is convicted of murdering his wife.
A Florida man faces charges for encouraging a suicide.
Smuggled drugs create chaos inside Ohio state prisons.
A former corrections officer details her drug smuggling path.
Prison workers rarely face prosecution for smuggling illegal drugs.
Starting in Texas today, Christopher Preciado has been sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for the brutal murders of 18-year-old Savannah Soto and 22-year-old Matthew Guerra. This tragic case began in December 2023 during a botched drug deal at a San Antonio apartment complex. Savannah was just days away from being induced to give birth to their son, whom they planned to name Fabian. Preciado shot the couple as they sat in their car, then enlisted his parents to help move the vehicle and hide the bodies. The discovery of the car, days later, devastated the local community and the victims' families.
The legal fallout extends beyond Christopher. His father, Ramon Preciado, is facing charges for abuse of a corpse and is expected to go to trial later this year. While charges against Ramon's partner were dropped, the investigation revealed that her gun was the murder weapon. Surveillance footage was instrumental in the conviction, showing the family working together to ditch the car with the victim still inside. Bexar County District Attorney Joe Gonzalez noted that, while the sentence cannot undo the tragedy, it ensures accountability for a crime that took 3 lives, including an unborn child, in a senseless act of violence.
Moving to Florida now, Orange County Judge John E. Jordan III is facing a public reprimand following a series of unprofessional and racially insensitive incidents in his courtroom. The Judicial Qualifications Commission recommended the punishment after Jordan asked a black man if he had ever chopped cotton before during a plea hearing. Jordan claimed he was referring to agricultural work his own family had done, but the commission found the remarks highly inappropriate given the historical stereotypes associated with black people and cotton picking. The judge has since admitted the comments were ill-considered, though he maintains he is not a racist and does not make rulings based on race.
The commission's investigation also highlighted Jordan's aggressive behavior toward public defenders. In a separate case, he was recorded scolding lawyers in a manner described as neither patient nor dignified. When the attorneys expressed that they felt rushed and unfairly treated, Jordan reportedly told them to shut up and mocked them by asking if they needed something to eat or drink. While the commission stopped short of recommending his removal from office, they emphasized that his conduct failed to meet the standards of the judiciary. This public reprimand serves as a formal acknowledgement of his failure to maintain a professional and respectful courtroom environment.
Next, a federal sentencing. Zachary Newell, a 26-year-old from North Carolina, has been sentenced to 2 years in federal prison for making horrific online threats against black preschool children. Newell pleaded guilty to communicating these threats on YouTube, where he detailed plans to shoot up a school and murder babies. Prosecutors revealed that his actions were deeply rooted in racial animosity, as he specifically targeted black and Hispanic children in his posts. He even admitted to investigators that he had been consuming extremist content and conspiracy theories online before making the posts. The FBI was able to intervene after receiving a tip about his disturbing social media activity.
During the investigation, Newell claimed his interest in city demographics was merely academic, but his search history and violent rhetoric suggested a much more dangerous intent. U.S. Attorney Ellis Boyle condemned the threats, stating that targeting infants based on skin color is completely unacceptable in a civilized society. Although Newell attempted to downplay his actions by deleting his computer history, the evidence of his racially motivated malice was overwhelming. This 2-year sentence reflects the serious nature of using the internet to incite fear and threaten the lives of the most vulnerable members of society. It highlights the ongoing battle against online radicalization and hate speech.
Now to Illinois. Trent Schneider of Winthrop Harbor has been convicted by a federal jury for making repeated threats to assassinate President Donald Trump. Over a short period, the 58-year-old posted at least 18 videos and messages on Instagram, often tagging the location of Trump Tower in Chicago. In these clips, Schneider used aggressive language, claiming he would take care of business with firearms and insisting that the president should be executed. Despite adding captions to some videos claiming they were not threats, the jury found his behavior constituted a true threat in interstate commerce. His irate behavior during interviews with law enforcement further solidified the prosecution's case against him.
U.S. Attorney Andrew Boutros emphasized that the conviction sends a clear message: threatening political figures or members of the judiciary is never acceptable. Schneider's defense that he was merely expressing frustration did not hold up against the sheer volume and specificity of his violent rhetoric. The case was brought to light by a concerned citizen in Florida, who saw the videos and alerted authorities. This conviction underscores the federal government's commitment to taking social media threats seriously, especially when they involve high-ranking public officials. Schneider now faces sentencing, where his history of verbal aggression and the nature of his threats will likely play a significant role.
Shifting to California. Samantha Johnson has been sentenced to over 15 years in prison for the horrific death of her 8-year-old daughter, Sophia Mason. The case shocked the community of Merced after Sophia's body was found decomposing in a bathtub months after she had passed away. Investigations revealed that Johnson had forced the young girl to live in a shed in the backyard before her death. Despite at least 7 reports of abuse made to social services over a 15-month period, no intervention occurred. Johnson eventually pleaded no contest to manslaughter and child abuse, as part of a plea deal that saw the original murder charges dropped, a move that Sophia's family criticized.
The details of Sophia's final days are heartbreaking. Johnson admitted to investigators that she left the girl in a bathroom with her boyfriend, Dante Jackson, knowing he was physically and sexually abusing her. Jackson also faced charges but was released with credit for time served after pleading to a lesser count. During the sentencing, Sophia's aunts delivered emotional statements, telling Johnson she had failed as a mother and allowed her child to suffer and die. While the legal proceedings have concluded with this prison term, the family maintains that true justice was not served given the severity of the neglect and the systemic failure of social services to protect Sophia.
Next in Georgia, Kelvin DeMond Williams has been sentenced to life without parole, plus 100 years for the cold-blooded murder of his wife, Tanisha Williams. The incident occurred in July 2025 at their home in Woodstock, where Kelvin cornered Tanisha in the kitchen and shot her while her 4-year-old son slept nearby. A 16-year-old stepson managed to call 911 while hiding from the gunfire. When police arrived, they found Kelvin calmly smoking a cigarette near his wife's body. The trial featured harrowing in-home camera footage that captured the entire sequence, including Kelvin asking his dying wife if she was dead using a derogatory term. The jury took less than an hour to convict.
Prosecutors described a marriage defined by extreme domestic abuse and isolation. Kelvin reportedly forced Tanisha to wear a Bluetooth device so he could monitor her every move, and even prevented her from attending her own mother's funeral. On the day of the murder, he actually made her purchase the ammunition he would later use to kill her. The judge described his actions as unfathomable and noted his complete lack of remorse throughout the trial. This sentence ensures that Kelvin will never again have the opportunity to harm others, providing some measure of closure for Tanisha's surviving children, who witnessed the terror of that night and the years of control preceding it.
Now to Florida again. In Fort Lauderdale, 41-year-old Miguel Hernandez is being held without bond on manslaughter charges following the suicide of his girlfriend, Mary McGonigal. While the medical examiner confirmed Mary died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound, prosecutors are using a specific statute to hold Hernandez responsible for encouraging the act. Initially, Hernandez told police that Mary had grabbed his gun during an argument and shot herself before he could stop her. However, internal surveillance footage from their home told a different story. The video allegedly shows Hernandez racking the slide of the firearm, handing it to her, and repeatedly yelling for her to go ahead and do it in the moments before the fatal shot.
When confronted with the video evidence, Hernandez admitted to making the statements but claimed he was merely calling her bluff and didn't think she would actually pull the trigger. This case draws parallels to the high-profile conviction of Michelle Carter in Massachusetts, who was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter for urging her boyfriend to end his life via text messages. The Broward County Sheriff's Office emphasized that providing the means and the verbal encouragement for a suicide constitutes a criminal act under Florida law. As the case moves forward, the court will have to decide if Hernandez's active participation in the moments leading up to the tragedy meets the legal threshold for manslaughter.
Turning to Ohio prisons. A year-long investigation has uncovered a dire drug epidemic within Ohio's prison system, specifically involving drug-soaked paper known as K2. This substance is easily smuggled and has become the leading cause of overdose deaths behind bars. In one tragic instance at Lebanon Correctional Institution, Jason Murphy died after smoking a tiny speck of this paper. His cellmate described the environment as something out of The Walking Dead, with incarcerated men shuffling around in a state of psychosis or passing out in their cells. Despite millions of taxpayer dollars spent on high-tech security like drones and electronic mail scanning, the flow of these synthetic drugs into the facilities appears to be largely unabated.
The investigation by several major Ohio news outlets revealed that authorities often close criminal cases the moment a death is ruled an overdose, failing to investigate how the drugs entered the prison. Families of the deceased are left questioning why this has become the new normal. The side effects of K2 are unpredictable and violent, leading to increased aggression and medical emergencies that strain prison resources. While officials point to visitors and packages thrown over fences as the primary sources, the sheer volume of drug seizures, over 56,000 since 2020, suggests a much deeper systemic issue. The addictive nature of the paper creates a lucrative underground economy that fuels further violence and instability within the walls.
Continuing with Ohio's smuggling, the investigation into Ohio's prisons also highlighted the role of corrupt staff, such as former corrections officer Barbara Devine. In 2022, Devine was caught attempting to smuggle 3 ounces of methamphetamine and several SIM cards into the Chillicothe Correctional Institution. Her story illustrates how vulnerable, low-paid employees can be manipulated by incarcerated individuals offering quick cash. Devine, who was earning $18 an hour and facing personal hardships, admitted that she made a big mistake after being pressured. Her case is just one of many where staff members have used their positions to bypass security, carrying contraband in their clothing or personal items. This internal corruption is a significant hurdle in stopping the drug trade.
Since 2000, hundreds of vendors and employees have been banned from Ohio prison property for inappropriate relationships or smuggling. However, the lack of transparency regarding why certain staff are not recommended for rehire makes it difficult to track the full extent of the problem. Many workers report a toxic environment where harassment is common, making them more susceptible to the psychological tactics used by smugglers. While Devine faced consequences, many other staff members who are suspected of similar activities often resign before they can be prosecuted. This revolving door of staff and the constant temptation of drug money continue to undermine the safety and security of the entire state prison infrastructure in Ohio.
Finally, prison worker prosecution. A major finding of the Ohio prison investigation is that staff members caught smuggling drugs are rarely prosecuted. In one egregious case in Dayton, a teacher was caught on camera passing drugs and sexually assaulting a student. Despite the video evidence, prosecutors declined to charge him, and he simply lost his job. Meanwhile, the incarcerated women involved were charged with felony drug possession. This disparity in accountability allows a multi-million-dollar underground economy to flourish. Incarcerated people and some honest employees argue that leadership refuses to admit that corrupt staff are the primary source of large-scale smuggling. They can bring in much larger quantities than visitors by hiding drugs in everyday items like lunchboxes.
Ohio's prison director blames external factors like packages thrown over fences, but the data suggests otherwise. The lack of criminal consequences for staff creates a culture of impunity where the risks of smuggling are outweighed by the massive profits. Using apps like Cash App and Venmo, the drug trade has become highly sophisticated, making it harder to track the financial trail. Without aggressive prosecution of the workers who facilitate this trade, the cycle of addiction and violence is unlikely to break. The investigation concludes that until the state addresses the corruption within its own ranks, the tens of millions of dollars spent on perimeter security will continue to be an ineffective solution to a very internal problem.
That concludes our roundup for today. Thank you for joining us for these critical updates. Be sure to follow this show for your next daily briefing on the stories that matter most.